Hello and welcome to episode 8 of the barn door restoration. Last episode I finished off the frame jig. This episode I managed to get the rust off the rear part of the frame. So this has been media blasted and a layer of zinc on it. Nice to have some clean metal. So the process, the first thing I did, of course, cut the frame rails. So I decided to cut the frame rails just ahead of the factory weld joint. That allows me to put the new frame rail in the back. It also leaves this all as one unit. I haven't quite decided where I'm starting on that yet, so I decided best to leave that on. So I cut the frame rails just ahead of the weld, and also I cut right in line with the rearmost outriggers. The metal seemed pretty good in back of that. That seemed like a good spot. The frame rails themselves, the bottom lip was pretty bad, especially where the joint was, where the inner reinforcement plate. The metal was all swelled and split between the layers. So once the frame rails were removed, I took this off, flipped it over, and removed any of the metal I knew was going to be replaced. So below the torsion beam, where the frame comes underneath, that fills with dirt and rusts quite bad. And this one had holes rusted through on both sides. Now I didn't really know what the metal inside the frame was going to look like. By tapping it, it sounded like it was thick right up to where the holes were. But really until you get in there, it's hard to tell. So luckily, the inside of the frame didn't have any rust on it. It was only rusted where the holes were. So that's nice. So it's at the edge of my cut is actually full thickness. I may cut a little more back when I go to rebuild that, but for now it's fine. So once I had all the metal that was going to need to be replaced cut out of it, I media blasted it. So I luckily have a room downstairs I use for media blasting. It is a terribly messy job, dusty, not something you really want to do in your shop. I use crushed glass. I find it cuts very well. There's not a lot of dust to it compared to some of the other medias, and it's relatively cheap. I have a small pressurized canister media blaster, and it works well with my compressor. It takes a lot of air to run sandblasters, especially the big ones, so the small one works well. It's great on body metal, small parts. It's very tedious on something with deep rust like this, so it just takes a long time to really get that rust out of there. But if you take your time, you can do just as good a job with those smaller blasters as you can a big one. So sandblast something like this, I usually do a quick pass first to get the majority of the rust off, and then go back over and get everything that got missed, especially in the cracks, anywhere there's pits, around welds. It's hard to get that rust out of there. So after I media blast it, I put a layer of zinc paint on. I use a high concentration zinc. I think it's 93% is the one I use. And it just comes in spray cans and spray it on. Zinc does a very good job at stopping rust, at neutralizing it. It's also quite soft, so it's very easy to work around. If you want to clean it off to weld, it's easy to clean off. If there's a little bit left, it's not going to hurt anything. The biggest issue with it is other paints don't adhere well to it because it's soft. So I think what I'm going to do is, once I get the whole frame assembled with the floor structure and everything, is actually strip it off and put an epoxy primer on everything. The zinc will still stay in all the areas with no access, and it will stay in the cracks and the pores. Now, I could have done epoxy primer in each section as I go. The issue with that is it's a pain to mix the paint, to spray it, and then clean the gun out each time. And then when you go to do work, you have to strip it off. You can't weld next to epoxy primer. You have to clean it off pretty good. So I guess that's about all for this episode. Next episode, I'm going to be stripping the front frames off. I got a lot of cleaning up to do on there. So that'll be next. Keep watching to see some video of the work and some detail of the videos of the parts. Thanks for watching.